Yes, God, honey. My name is Devin Razor, owner of Beyond Extensions here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and welcome to Beyond the Salon. Today I have special guest Dr. Martez Prince. He is an HBCU graduate of the number one HBCU in the nation, Florida A&M University. He's a philanthropist, a pharmacist, as well as the owner of a Black-owned pharmacy right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. Welcome, Dr. Prince.
Well, thank you. Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me, Mr. Razor. I don't know if you remember, well, I'm sure you remember, but when I first opened, you came by bearing gifts, and that was, of course, my first time meeting you. But since then, you've supported the Premier Foundation, you supported the pharmacy, and so when you asked me to come on to Beyond the Salon, I was like, of course, I would definitely want to come on and support you in the mission. Allowing the truth of entrepreneurship to come out. And I think this is like one of my favorite things to do. It's not, often that we actually get the truth.
Right, right. And thank you so much for coming on. I wanted to create a space where Black entrepreneurs can, that I can identify with myself that look like me, talk about their journey, talk about some of the things that they experience as being an entrepreneur, as being a business owner. And so this is why I have invited you. I have paid attention, I have watched, and sometimes I've watched in secret. Or should I say watched in secret? I've admired in secret. And so I wanted to get to know a little bit about you. We see you on social media, we've seen you on the news, we've even seen you with Oprah, but today I want to get a little bit about you.
Yes.
So, is that okay with you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so we do have a little bit in common, but I will wait to get there. But first off, I want to know a little bit about your background. Where'd you come from? What was it like growing up there?
Yeah. So it's so crazy. Like we don't get to really share that much in the interviews anymore. It's usually interviews are more so about a particular subject. And
Mhm.
so it's really good that we get to share and go back to the roots. And so that's why I invited some of my friends to watch this live so they can learn a little bit more about me and how I got to where I am today. Well,
Mhm.
I actually, I'm from Fort Pierce, Florida, which is a very, very small um, town or city. We are a beach town in Florida. And I graduated in 2004. I went off to FAMU. I studied pharmacy there. Once I graduated in 2010, I relocated to Charlotte, worked for a big box drugstore. Thought that that was life and everything was good. However, as time went on, I decided that I wanted to venture off to something that was a little bit more meaningful and that
Mhm.
aligned with my passion. And that's kind of how I got on the journey of entrepreneurship. And
Mhm.
that was in 2015. So it's been a little over 5 years now, and we are here.
Right. I did hear that you said that you went to Florida A&M University. I actually attended there myself. So
Yes.
tell us a little bit about your experience there and why did you choose Florida A&M?
Well, so first of all, if anybody knows me or has followed my journey or followed my Instagram pages, you know that I am very passionate about Florida A&M University. Now, the crazy thing is, growing up, I'm from a small town, and every Black person that had an education either to Bethune-Cookman College
Oh,
or
FAMU.
FAMU. So I was kind of playing the advocate of, I don't really want to go to that school, because everyone is going to be there. However, I think it was my 11th grade year, I um, went to the marching. We have a large alumni base, of course, in Fort Pierce. So the Marching 100 would come during the MLK weekend and do Battle of the Bands there. And I seen the Marching 100 play, and I just loved it. And I fell in love with the school. I had never been to the school. My aunt went to the school.
Okay.
So from there, I told my aunt I was interested, and she took me on a visit to FAMU. And I would tell you this: the moment that I stepped on campus, I was in love with
You
FAMU.
knew you were home.
I knew I was home. I knew I was home. And it was a crazy feeling. Like, you know, a lot of people, I actually graduated number 8 in my class from high school. I was the only black male. First of all, I was the only male in the top 10. And I was the only black male, not only in the top 10, but that graduated with honors from my school. And I got a lot of different scholarships, and I was accepted to a lot of different schools, but I was just so gung-ho on going to FAMU. And it was one of the best decisions that I could have ever made in my life. I've made lifelong friends, people who are family.
Right. Now, was education something that was very important in your family, or is it something that you kind of just tapped into yourself?
Um, my parents, they really focused on education. They really wanted us to just to do well and to do something with our lives. I can remember actually it's so crazy because people asked me the other day, I was talking about how I remember something from my little brother. I'm 34, my little brother is 31. And so I had to be 3 when he was born. But I remember when my mom's water broke. And someone asked me, like, how do you remember that?
Wow. At 3 years old.
Experience. I just remember, like, actually coming home from pre-K or kindergarten and my mom doing homework with me. It was something like coloring a pirate or something like that and then writing in the little letters or something. But I do remember that, and I think that kind of set the tone that education was important. My dad, I remember like learning my timetables, like my 6 timetables and different things like that. I remember my dad helping me. So education was always, I knew it was important to my parents. And so I kind of just like education always was easy for me. I learned things quickly, and it's just kind of been like that for me.
Okay. I think with the generation, because you and I are around the same age, education was something that was very important to my family as well. I think at the time, you know, being black and having children that went off to college and got their education, that was a part of what they deemed as success for them. So it's amazing that you were able to take that was put into you and to make the decisions that led you down the path to where you are today. So tell us a little bit about how did you get started in pharmacy, and was that something, and seeing a black pharmacist growing up, was that something that was familiar to you?
Yeah, actually, yes. So our hometown pharmacist. So I actually grew up, and my mentor was a independent pharmacy owner. He owned the medicine shop, which was a franchise. So I did get a chance to see a actual black pharmacist growing up. Now the crazy thing is, when I moved to Charlotte, my friends, they had never seen a black pharmacist, and that was like crazy to me, only because of the fact that I grew up with a black pharmacist and I went to school at HBCU, which, you know, graduated 100 plus pharmacists a year.
Right.
So that was, so that was kind of shocking to me, and it was an eye opener that, that things aren't the same everywhere. But I actually started my pharmacy career when I was 16. So I was I went to high school, and I was in this class where we had to pick majors, or I guess what we would consider to be majors now, academies. And I chose to go into the health academy only because all of my friends were in the health academy. And so I thought that I wanted to be a lawyer because, in the black family, oh, you're going to be a lawyer.
Right.
I had no law, but, whatever. So I actually went into the health academy, and I remember opening up this book, and it had this flow chart, and the flow chart was all these different healthcare professions, and the different degrees that you can get in within the profession, the money that they made, and how long they would have to go to school. And so when I was doing that, I was like, well, I do kind of want to have a doctorate, but I don't want to go to school forever, and I do want to be able to make a decent living. So I kind of like did the little and it all lined up, and it was pharmacy. So I went home. I told my mom that I was interested in pharmacy. She connected with Mr. or Dr. Mark Leaf, who was also a FAMU graduate. because everyone in my hometown went to FAMU. He's a
Mm-hmm.
FAMU graduate. So he gave me a job as a clerk. And I made $5.15 an hour. And
Wow.
right. And so
At the age
whenever
of
we would,
16?
Mhm.
You were 16.
Yes.
Okay.
So um, then um, after everyone would leave, sometimes he would let me like count pills or whatever and stuff. So I kind of really thought I was doing the pharmacy thing at that point. But one of the things that stood out to me the most while I was there was the community, especially like he had, black, mostly black customers, but black and white customers. And
Okay.
the community like gravitated towards him when they came in. They had this like really deep respect for him. And he really was able to shine a lot of light the on individuals like issues. And
Mm-hmm.
so before they would go to the doctor, sometimes they would just stop in to get his opinion and everything. And I just like really admired the respect that they had for him. And so I said, I think I want to do this as well. I really do think I want to pursue pharmacy. And I remember, I think I was in the maybe I was in my late junior year or beginning of the sophomore year. And then I kind of thought I wanted to do or be a OBGYN. And I remember telling my mom, and she was like, "You just saying that? You just told me you wanted to be a pharmacist like last year. You've been saying you want to be a pharmacist the whole time. So like, what do you want to do? Are you changing your mind or what?" So I just kind of like said, you know what? I'm gonna just be a pharmacist because
Uh-huh.
she said, she thinks I'm not serious because I keep changing my mind.
Uh-huh.
So with that, I went ahead. I of course applied to FAMU graduate school. I applied to the pre-pharmacy program. I got into the pre-pharmacy program and then got there, graduated. Now I had no thoughts, ideas, or hopes of opening my own pharmacy. That just wasn't something that I, wanted to do, or I didn't wanted to do it at the time. But it ended up happening, so I'm here.
I think that is an amazing to hear how the pharmacy that you worked at had a black pharmacist and how much of a staple he became in the community that people trusted him enough more so than than their primary care doctors that they were going toward him asking him about stuff about their health about their medications prior to even going to see their primary care doctors. How much of an impact do you feel that has made for you today, considering the area, the location, and what type of pharmacist you decided you want to be?
Well, I think that it definitely. It's so funny because one of my friends just came on and
Mm-hmm.
she knew pharmacists as well. And
Mm-hmm.
I remember some days he used to be stressed out, and I used to think like, do I really want to do this? But honestly, now I get it. Um, but I just as time went on, I watched pharmacists, and I'm just naturally a person who's very passionate about the community. So I
Okay.
knew I wanted to be a pharmacist that was like community focused, community driven. So even when I graduated, although I didn't want to own a pharmacy, I thought that I did want to work for a company that had a pace
Mm-hmm.
that would allow me to like engage with the community in which and the way I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And what actually ended up happening was it started off that way, but as like profits became something a little bit more um, demanding, the kind of community aspect way, and I actually started to hate my job, and
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think I wanted to be a pharmacist anymore. Um, and through that, what ended up happening was I realized that it's not that I didn't like being a pharmacist. It was just the fact that I hated the way I was forced to practice pharmacy. And so the only way for me to fix that was to create my own job and create a situation which I would love to do, and I could practice pharmacy the way that I actually desired.
Because that wasn't your experience. I
Yes.
think that the experience that you had growing up when you were 16 through 18 is how you viewed pharmacy.
Mm-hmm.
So the job that you had where you begin to not feel like you liked your job anymore, did that become that became your inspiration to open up your own pharmacy?
Well, you know, the crazy thing is really the community became the inspiration to open the pharmacy.
Okay.
So what happened was because the job was the reason why I was just leaving pharmacy. So I was leaving. I didn't care. I was going to. I had already had it in my head. I had all of the materialistic things that I wanted. I had a car, house. I was good. I just needed enough to pay my mortgage
Mm-hmm.
and to pay my student loans. And then from that, I was going to, you know, whatever. So, but what ended up happening was, as I was saying that out loud, then I started to think that I was really going to miss patients. That I really enjoyed my patient interactions because although I couldn't practice pharmacy the way that I really wanted to, I still really enjoyed the patients. I enjoyed the moments where I got to teach them things. I enjoyed the moments where they had that self-discovery. I really enjoyed those things, and I knew that once I walked away from the profession, I was actually miss those moments. So with that, I just said, you know what? I realized that it's not pharmacy that I hate. I just hate the way that I'm forced to do it, and I really enjoy serving the people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to I started to say, you know what, if I had a pharmacy, this is how it would be. And from that statement alone, it kind of started to snowball. And that's turned into like, you know, me telling my friend, one of my best friends, I said, we were actually having lunch. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, you know, we should open a pharmacy, like jokingly. And
Wow.
and so she kind of said, yeah, man, we would do this, 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 this. And so from that, it kind of just like started to fester in me. I know I post a lot on my other Instagram page, my personal Instagram page. I
Mm-hmm.
post a lot about me being like a visionary. Like I don't always know all the answers to things, but I do know like exactly what I want to do
Mm-hmm.
and kind of how it looks, and then I'm gonna figure out the rest of it as I go along. And so what happened was I started to I shared that with another person, which was one of my other best friends, and he kind of gave me the approval.
Thank you so much. And for the ones who are just tuning in, I have Dr. Martez Prince here with Premier Pharmacy and Wellness Center here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes. So yeah, so I think I was well, I was saying so I shared the vision with one of my friends. He kind of gave me the momentum of to go ahead and he supported it,
Mm-hmm.
and that was very important because I actually working on a book about like how to increase your capacity. And one of the things I talk about in that book is about protecting your atmosphere, like how the order in which you share your dream. And that's very important because like I oftentimes think about the fact of if I had shared this like crazy wild dream of like quitting a job, making six figures, going out, doing something that I wasn't 100% sure was going to even work out. I never, you know, I wasn't a business owner. I didn't have any business experience going to do this. And if he probably had shut me down, and so my two friends, if they had said like, that's crazy, I probably wouldn't have done it, you know, but they gave me like I think that's a good idea. And so from that, I kind of got the courage to continue to go. And what I did was I seen someone ask me, how do I finance my business? Um,
Mm-hmm. That was actually my next question.
yeah. So one of the things that I did was I talked about the fact that I had a house and a car and different things like that. So by the time, now mind you, all of this happened from lunch to opening happened in about 120 days. So yeah, so that's something that people don't really know. They think that I have a vision to open this pharmacy like for a long time, and I have been saving money and doing, but no, I didn't. I'm an Aries, so like you know, Aries once they have a vision or something they want to do, I seen the vision and I went for it. I got the few okays along the way that kind of helped me keep the momentum going, and so from that, what I did was I um I I started to put together a plan. I started picking up extra hours at work. They had no clue, like, why I was picking up extra hours, because it was a conflict of interest if I was planning to open a pharmacy. So I
Right.
had to keep that very private. And I worked extra. I saved a lot. So then I went to my friends and I told them, like, hey, I kind of started putting the bug in their ear. I said, hey, I have something I want to talk to you about. I want to invite you to dinner on, it was Mother's Day that I invited everyone to dinner. And I invited 8 friends to dinner. And I had put together a PowerPoint that I had been working on, like how much the average pharmacy made, like how many prescriptions I would need to do, like all these different things that I started to put together into this like 41-page book that I got bound, and I handed it out at the meeting. And some were like, um, you can sit down. I mean, like, I'm like, no, I want to really come to you guys and share this with you in a professional manner, because I want to show you that I'm serious about this.
Right.
And so I presented the PowerPoint in my Apple TV, and I told everyone the PowerPoint was called using your network to increase your net worth. And I presented a plan that encouraged them to invest in my pharmacy. In returns, they would receive profits back, and including their initial investment, and then they will be able to um, invest in something that they were then passionate
Right.
about. Also, at the same time, we were going to be helping the African American community by putting a pharmacy in our community that was deserving by the people.
Right.
And so I presented 8 of my friends with the opportunity to invest, and I gave them 1 week to agree and give me the checks.
Mm-hmm.
And so my plan B was I showed them that whether you agree to this or not, this journey is going to continue to move. So I had, this is my A, how I prefer to do it. However, my plan B is for me um, to take out a home equity loan on my home and to finance pharmacy that way. So I did not have to do that. All my friends invested in me. Of course, I had savings as well. So my first, my first 8 months of working in the pharmacy, I was the only pharmacist. I worked 8 days a week. I only took vacation like when there was like a life event that I
Mm-hmm.
going to attend.
Mm-hmm.
And mind you, because this happened in 120 days, I had already like planned to go to Tokyo. So
Uh-huh.
2 months after the pharmacy was open, I went to Tokyo for a week. But that was because I had already paid
You had
for it.
already paid
My
for it.
life had
All you
already
did was go.
planned. Yeah, and so I kind of lived my life like that. I cut my expenses back to the bare minimum. So like I used to have a housekeeper to like come and clean and different things like that. I suspended those so that I could have extra income for myself. I calculated what was needed for me personally to live on a monthly basis. I divided into two, and every 2 weeks when I paid my employees, I moved money from my savings account to my checkings account as if I was getting a paycheck.
Right.
Um, that's very, very important, because a lot of times individuals go into the whole aspect of wanting to start a business, but the issue is they start to worry about their personal finances. They start to worry about how they're actually going to survive.
Right.
And when you do that, it takes away from your creativity, it takes away from your focus. And so by me like having that solid plan on how I was going to survive, I had my year savings, you know, ready. And I paid myself, so I felt like I was still getting a paycheck.
Right.
Um, but all of my friends, they invested in the pharmacy. Um, we, our first like 4 months that we opened, we ended up like doing like $40,000 in sales, which I remember the accountant saying, like, you guys were only open like in 4 months and y'all did $40,000. Like, that's crazy. Like, that's really good.
Right.
And so, and I remember in my head thinking that the average independent pharmacy made $500,000, like, revenue after being open for 10 years. So our first year, complete year that we was open, our first complete year that we were open, we ended up making $1.3 million.
Wow.
revenue. And so when I knew that, I knew that that was, I kind of started to know that this was ordained by God. He wanted me to do this. We always kept the community like at the forefront, always community based. So as long as we kept doing that part, like God would just continue to bless us. And so like I shared something on my other Instagram today about from Oprah that when she talked about her color purple experience and how the color purple, there was nothing more in life she wanted to be in the color purple, and she prayed about it. She worked for it. She did all these things for it. But once you do everything that you can do, then you just surrender and you go with the flow.
Right.
And
Right.
and she did that, and that's kind of what I did. I prayed about the pharmacy. I put in the hours for the pharmacy. I did everything that I needed to do, and the opportunities just start coming. And so, and it's about keeping the passion, like, following your mission and making sure that you're staying true to that. And I think once you do that, everything else just kind of starts to, fall into line. I remember that we had our first full year in business, we did $1 million. Well, one day I'm sitting there at the pharmacy, and this was like back when I used to, I was a pharmacist a lot of the times. And now we have, there's 3 full-time pharmacists and 1 part-time pharmacist that works. And I really don't do pharmacy work anymore, which I miss. I guess I kind of miss it. But it's just kind of like how business right now is just like, so I'm more so focused on getting in and growing the business and relationships and different things like that, but of course, pharmacy is something I'm very passionate about. The patients are something I'm very passionate about. That's actually why my office used to be in the back. But in December, we built the conference room in my office that's in the front. I built the office like that so that I can come out to the front so patients can see me as they came.
Right.
Since I don't really work in the pharmacy as much anymore because that was important to me. But I was working as a pharmacist, and this guy came in, and he wanted to discuss some opportunities to work with some hemophilia drugs, which are drugs used for clotting factors or whatever. But that particular project alone, had an additional, that one project alone was $1 million project that we worked on. And so, and that person found me through social media, and through always being on social media, and always interviewing and doing different things like that. But so the opportunities, once again, I was out there advocating on behalf of our community and everything, and the opportunities is just they start to come and continue.
So what I'm hearing you say is kind of like with quite a few entrepreneurs that I know, as well as myself. Sometimes we are in the industry or we're working on a job and we begin to feel unfulfilled. Sometimes it's not when you get to that place and you're making the money and you have everything that you thought that you wanted, the house, the car, the chef, the cleaning service, and what we deem at that point success was, but you did not feel fulfilled. And that feeling of unfulfilledness causes you to take a left turn or causes you to make the right turn into the area that's going to direct you towards your own destiny.
Yeah.
So at that point, were you already in Charlotte? And if not, how did you choose Charlotte?
Well, yeah. So I moved to Charlotte 3 days after I graduated FAMU.
Okay.
I chose Charlotte just at the time. Well, all of my siblings live in other states. They stayed in the state in which they went to college in. I actually went to college in Florida, and then I moved out of Florida. But I chose Charlotte due to the fact that it was up and coming for African Americans. It was one of the top cities at the time, and I graduated college, so I just said, hey, why not? And I took the job. I came here. I moved here. To be honest with you, I thought after the first year, I was probably going to leave just because it was when you move here and you don't move here with family, you just like, with me and maybe two friends. But then like towards the end of that first year, I started like a lot of friends who are actually like my family now. And then I said, you know what, I like Charlotte. It's a great place to stay, to live, or whatnot. But still, at that point, having a pharmacy or being an entrepreneur was not on my radar. Once that came about, and I did decide I wanted to do the whole pharmacy thing. I remember it was 120 days from the time I had the idea to the time the pharmacy doors opened. And I shared first with my best friends, then with the potential investors, which became investors. And then it was in July, at the end of July, I shared with my family that I was doing this because it was too far in at that point. But they are always like, "You gonna leave that good paying job to do this?"
Is that why you waited to tell them?
Yes, because I knew at that point about the atmosphere, protecting the atmosphere. I wanted to remove the doubt. But the good thing was I've always been a person that made good decisions, so my family trusted me. So when I
Right.
said this, I know that they had some in the back of their mind. They were like, what are you gonna do? But they would not say it out loud. So I went ahead with it, and I remember like maybe 30 days before it was opening, I texted all my friends and my family, and that's when I kind of announced that I was doing this thing. And I invited 60 of my friends, like local and from afar, to come and join me in the first look. And so opened October 3rd, 2015.
Hold on,
We
hold on, hold on. What day?
October 3rd, 2015.
Okay, that day
Yep,
show
yep.
sounds familiar.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
the founding day of FAMU, October 3rd, 1887.
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that was my way of paying homage to FAMU. So we launched
Yeah.
on that date. But the good thing, one of the things I learned about just about marketing and PR in general is, you know, if you have to make someone come and find the story, they're not gonna give you the story. You have to give them the story. And
Right.
so what I did was, the opening on October 3rd, alumni of FAMU opening October the 3rd, they decided, you know what, we should share this on our page. And
Right.
with the alumni base, by the time that morning we had breakfast at the pharmacy, we had prayer, we took photos, and I allowed individuals to shop and everything. We closed up the pharmacy, and that night we had a small black tie event, which is like the annual black tie that I have. At that event is when I announced that I wanted the pharmacy to also have a nonprofit component in which we would donate back to the community.
Okay.
Since then, we've donated over $120,000 back in the form of like
Wow.
stuff to the community.
Wow. That's absolutely amazing.
Um,
I actually attended one of your events.
yeah, you
That was
you
the
came to our
scholarship.
the scholarship luncheon last year.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, last year. Last year at the scholarship luncheon, we awarded $12,000, and all the students received iPads at our scholarship luncheon last
That's
year.
amazing.
So,
Absolutely amazing.
yeah, so the actual scholarship application is open right now. So you guys who are watching this live know a student,
Please.
know a student who is in need of finances. The scholarship closes, I believe, next Friday. But just visit my website, or go to visit my website. You can get to the pharmacy, the foundation. You can find out everything you need to know right there, and have the students apply. It's very important. I'm very big on making sure students have what they need. I feel like, once again, that we should not, our focus should be on being creative, learning, and those things, and not finances. And so that's why I'm a big advocate on helping kids and removing those barriers in which they come about.
So that kind of, I think you just kind of hit on to my next question, which was, how do you choose to give back to not just to your community, but to people, to students and people that are younger than you, that look at you as an inspiration and then want to go into the pharmacy field like yourself?
Well, one, to whom much is given, much is required. And I think we often forget that. We often think that, sometimes people get to a place where they think that, like, life is good, and I'm here because I deserve to be here, like, and I made it. But the
Right.
truth is, it takes a lot to get you there, whether you realize it or not. And like, even if you don't have the best relationship with your parents or whatever, your parents still like brought you into this world. They gave you life. And so if it wasn't for them, you still, you're indebted to them, and you should pay homage to them, and you should always respect them. So it's that part of remembering where I came from, who, poured into me, and the times where I needed help. I remember, see, what a lot of people don't realize was, like, when I graduated pharmacy school, I don't know how these students now have all this money, and they have these elaborate graduation parties and all kind of crazy
Right.
stuff. But like, I was broke. I remember I paid the deposit for my house. I mean, not for my house, but for my apartment. I had to move from Florida to here, and I didn't have any money. I remember I did have a luxury car, and that was only because my car broke down during my rotation year, and I needed reliable transportation. However, I could not afford to make that car payment. I used my offer letter to get that car, which was crazy. But anyways, my mom helped me with that. When I moved here, of course, I wasn't a pharmacist yet. I was a pharmacy intern, and so therefore, I had to still pass my exam and all that thing. But until I made the money that I needed, my mom helped me, which is why I always make sure that my mom is taken care of. And so, yeah, so I remember those times. I remember like going out with friends and trying to decide, like, I can't be spending this much money on, at this restaurant and all those things. Like, we sometimes forget those things, like,
Right.
and we have to remember that those things still existed and was life. And
Well,
that's kind of,
it's great that you had that type of self control, because sometimes I've seen where I've known where sometimes I haven't, early on in my career, when I knew I didn't have it, but I was so in fear to let people know that I didn't have it and that I was struggling financially. I didn't want to even let my parents know that I was struggling financially. So was that something that you always had, that that strength to be able to just straight up say, you know what, I'm not spending money with y'all this weekend. I'm not doing this. I got stuff to do.
no, and so the good thing is, I had a job like while I was in school, but it was my last year in school, in
Hmm.
which I had to move. I relocated to Miami to finish my rotations. And while I was there, if you're on rotations, it's very similar to a resident, like in farm and med school, where you pretty much work 40 hours a week. But the thing is, there's no pay.
Right.
Um, and so by the time that my rotations was over, I had really nowhere to. Uh, I really had nowhere to work. I just like, I had to live off of the little money that I had. And
Right.
so during that time, I had the bare minimum of what I needed, but I also accumulated a large amount of credit card debt during that time as well.
Hmm.
And so that's why when I graduated, and now mind you, I was a pharmacy intern. So a pharmacy intern makes like, I want to say we were making either $35 or $45 an hour. So that was a lot, like compared to like zero, So I did have the money, like, during that time, but at the same time, I wasn't working a 40-hour week or anything like that. But it was designed so that you can get your feet wet, and learn all the processes, so that when you do become licensed, you could just move right into your role.
Hmm.
So, so I was making like that money. Then I had to study for my boards and all that stuff as well.
Hmm.
So, but during that time, remember that, when you're not used to having money, you just pretend like you don't have. You just like, I remember there was a time where it was like, oh no, I'm not spending $100. Oh no, like, I'm not spending that. You know, and it took a while for me to get that.
Right.
And so. like even now, it's crazy that that happened. But then after I started making the money, like your spending kind of gets out of control. Like, the great thing is I've always been disciplined. I've always saved something how I was able to like open the pharmacy. But what I did realize that we were like wasting a lot of money on things like bottle service in the clubs. Like we, uh,
Don't don't we?
yeah, I love me a good pair of like Gucci shoes and
Yes,
like,
yes.
all those things. But what I started to realize that those things, I couldn't translate those things into like net worth. They were worthless once I got them.
Right.
And that's actually how I use, that's the mechanism I use in which to seek out my friends to get funding. So I realized that I said, look, this person, and this person is always at the section with me buying a table. So
So
that means
at the money.
they got the money.
They
And
got
so those are actually the friends of it. And so my best friend Tamara, she just joined. She was the one who I told you I was having lunch with when
uh-huh.
I started the whole thing, to go into the pharmacy business.
Hmm.
But yeah, so that's how I decided who I was going to ask for to help me with this whole funding. And then once we did that, um, you know, they are all very happy that they came on the journey. And I thank them for believing in me.
Right.
But once again, and this is the message to the people who are listening, like, if you're going to ask someone to invest in you, if you're going to ask someone to believe in your dream and your mission, you really have to show the work and that you did the due diligence to actually make that happen. Like,
Right.
no one wants to invest in something that you're not willing to take a risk or invest in yourself.
Right.
And so that's why I had to show that, you know what, this is the amount of money that I need. This is the amount of money that I'm going to contribute, and I need your help with making up this difference. And so it showed that I had skin in the game too, and that I was going to make sure this worked, because if it didn't work, I was going to lose everything I invested in, as well as they invested as well.
Hmm.
And so that's another thing that I like to share about that whole aspect. Because since, like, of course, opening a pharmacy, I always get individuals that are approach me with wanting me to help them like open a business, or like even tell them like everything that I do to start the business.
Hmm.
But one of the most like disrespectful things that you can do is to approach someone and ask them that without doing the due diligence or just simple homework or the basic work.
Right.
Because a lot of times individuals think that, we have, just a lot of time on our hands. But the truth is, we're, running the business. We are like trying to perfect the brand. We are, making sure that the employees that are working with us or our team is actually carrying out the mission of the company and the brand as well. So we really don't have a lot of time to like, to put into those kind of projects that are not really where they need to be, you know.
Right.
And that's something that I had to find out very early on, because I found myself feeling guilty about
Not
telling individuals no. Yeah, and like I found myself like, tied up into conversations that were an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours long, for individuals that hadn't even done the basic homework or
right.
even have the simple things done yet.
So, Dr. Prince, my question is how, tell us about three people that influence you. I think you already spoke about one, which is
Mhm.
the pharmacist and the pharmacy that you worked at 16. So tell us really quick about two more. We have about 5 minutes left.
Okay, about you said two more people that influenced me.
And maybe a character from a book. It may be something that you read, something that you watched. Um, yeah.
Okay. So I would say one of my most recent inspirations is Oprah.
Okay.
Um, and that was, I would say that that's an inspiration because it's definitely something way bigger than like what I imagined. And individuals don't realize that even like for me, um, people always ask, um, like if you come to see me, if you come to the pharmacy and you know me, I don't care who you are, you're going to get me in work mode.
Mm-hmm.
This is me at work and what I do. Well, for me, for like doing the Oprah event, that was work for me.
Mm-hmm.
It was part of something I was doing. I was at work. I was clocked in. I was on the clock, and so um, but learning so much from behind the scenes of her team and the way that she thinks and that she like all the things that she thought about and from the branding. Like if you've ever been to one of our wellness fairs, like we love balloons and stuff, and like when they told us that we couldn't have balloons because of the environmental reasons, and like how everything connected back to her, that was a big inspiration for me as far as um, like how much you are of your brand, you know.
Right.
And so
It's
that
like it taught you to think out the box.
hmm yeah, and like you know, and deeper in life, and everything needed to have a why to it. So
Right.
that was, I would say so. That was one of my most recent inspirations. And then um, and of course, Mr. Mark Leith was one of my inspirations for actually just becoming a pharmacist and like being inspired to do that. And then I would say that my third one would be the just a collection of my patients because really graduating pharmacy school at 24, it can be very intimidating because it's like, you know, you're 24 and you're telling these adults like, you know, what to do. And these people have been around longer than you have. They've been taking these medications longer than you have. And it's like, how do you, I tell individuals that you graduate and you get the pharmacy degree and the doctorate title, but you actually earn that title from the community.
Right.
And so for the longest, I was just Martez, and then my patients who like demanded that I be Dr. Prince. And when they gave me that they wanted me to have that respect because I had did that for them in their lives, that was very important. So I would say that the patients really inspired me to to just be the best pharmacist that I can be. But I've seen that they were benefiting from, you know, my actions. I was, you know, that made a huge difference in my career and the path in which it took.
That's awesome. My last question for you is, how do you define beauty and what does it mean to you?
I think that beauty is something that it's not really in the way that a person looks.
Hmm.
It's the overall persona of a person. It's like their how they carry themselves to their morals, their values. It because like you can have someone who may not have the best of this feature or that feature, but they have such a beautiful spirit that everything about them just glows.
Right.
And it's like and that person becomes beautiful, so that it's just their heart, their willingness, their ability to connect with people. I think that that's the beauty of it. You know, they have just a beautiful spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have about 2 minutes left. I want to play a quick game called This or That.
Okay.
So I'm going to give you two options, and you have to choose whether you like this or you like that. So let's start off. I like to ask this one a lot. Um, iPhone or Android?
iPhone. This.
iPhone. Swimming, or, well, should I say going to the pool or going to the beach?
um I would say the pool, because
Okay.
I can control the atmosphere.
You can control the atmosphere.
Mhm.
Okay, would you enjoy a staycation or a vacation?
Vacation.
Vacation. Okay, would you tacos or cheeseburgers?
I'm gonna go with cheeseburger. Easier to eat.
Okay, last question. In the office or outside in the community?
Outside in the community.
Thank you so much, Dr. Prince. You have been absolutely amazing. I have enjoyed this journey that you've taken us beyond the salon, beyond the pharmacy, down the path of your success. It has been absolutely amazing to have you, and I'd like to say thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on today. Definitely been a pleasure, and I wish everyone who is watching a very safe, I wish safety to you, your family. Remember that we have to love on one another, educate, and remember to always share.
Thank you.
Share your knowledge, share whatever it is that you have. Everyone has something they can offer to the world, so make sure you share.
Thank you. And how can we find you and how can we find your pharmacy?
Yes, so we are located at 3010 Monroe Road in Suite 101. We're in the Shops of Chantilly. For those who are in Charlotte, we're very close to the uptown side of Charlotte. So right when 7th Street ends and Monroe Road begins, the Durrell Apartments is a landmark here. And we're located right outside the historic Burr Heights neighborhood.
Okay. And your social media, last thing.
So my website is www.drmartezprince.com. I'm also Dr. Martez Prince on Facebook. If you want to know what I do in my crazy personal life, go over to Part 7. Season was on here, which is my branding coach. She created the
I I love Season.
Yeah, she is amazing. So yeah, we're on social media, Premier_RX. But the best way to find me is by clicking the link in my bio here. Takes you to my website. All of my social media handles are there. All of the foundation information is there. All of the pharmacy information is there. So we would love to see you in our store one day.
All right. Thank you so much again, Dr. Prince. We truly, truly enjoyed you.
Yeah, thank you so much and best wishes.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right.